Good afternoon to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack here. Wednesday now, the 6th of August 2025. Glad you tuned into today's video. Got some very interesting stuff to show you, not only in the tropics, something I'm going to be watching very closely in about 5 days, and I think you'll agree with me that it's certainly interesting. And then at the end of today's update, I really hope you'll stick around for this really interesting video, a very unique perspective of the wildfire situation here in Arizona, where I have been for over a week now. Came out for the monsoon, and that's been pretty low grade, and I've spent actually a lot of time these last few days tracking down these wildfires, specifically the Dragon Bravo fire, and I'm going to show you some really cool stuff as we wrap up today's video. But first, let's take a look at what's happening in the tropics. National Hurricane Center homepage. A couple of areas of interest here. This is now no longer orange, meaning that the probabilities are starting to get reduced. Whatever does develop will more than likely track away from the U.S., pretty much like Dexter did. Then we got this feature down here. Hurricane Center says that showers and thunderstorms starting to get a little bit more concentrated with this feature. And as you can see from the orange area where it could potentially form and track, this is probably going to head out into the open Atlantic due to some weakness sitting out here in the subtropical ridge. And then, of course, there's old Dexter sitting out there, top winds 50 miles per hour, and that's pretty much all we have to say about Dexter. I do want to look at the East Pac real quick. We do have East Pac Invest Area 91, well on its way to becoming a tropical depression, if it's not already. I mean, there it is, 100%, that this will be upgraded to our next TD out there. Then we have Henriette, and Henriette's going to head off well to the north and east of Hawaii, so we don't have to worry about that at all. So, satellite animation for this afternoon. Let's use this big yellow marker here. A little surface trough sitting out here. Again, whatever might develop should head on out. Very similar to Dexter, which is right here. By the way, you ever wondered what shear looks like? I think most of us probably know. There you go. Everything's getting pulled apart like taffy, and the low-level circulation of Dexter getting exposed, and it'll become extra tropical as we move through the next few days. Meanwhile, in the East Pac, there's our new system well on its way to becoming our next named storm out that way. And then there is Henriette, and that's about that. Pretty darn clear and hot back here over the southwest, which again I'll touch upon toward the end of today's update. Sliding the animation off to the east, this is the area that the Hurricane Center mentions is getting a little bit more concentrated. It's a little bit more in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity, but a lot of dry, stable air still lurking, especially in the mid-levels. And look, I will admit, I mean, it's easy because it's right there, right? Look, there is dust. It is coming off, but the dust is not what kills these things. It is the dry mid-level air, and that has been very prevalent. And let me bring me back on so I can, you know what I say, talk to you, not just at you. Until and unless that dry air gets mixed out and we can get the instability, because that's the bottom line. The Atlantic's just too stable right now. The atmosphere is too stable, so we're not getting a lot in the way of deep thunderstorm activity. But we are starting to see signs of that changing, and I know that's like a broken record at this point, but it is a slow process. And if we do these videos every day or even a couple times a week, it seems like we are watching that pot waiting for it to boil. And you know what they say, a watched pot never boils. Well, in the case of the Atlantic, it eventually will, even if it is a more backloaded type season. You just never know. Speaking of all that and trying to figure things out, anyway, got an update here from Colorado State University today, and still looking at a slightly above normal hurricane season overall. The dry air and the lack of activity up to this point has helped to reduce the overall numbers, but, and I found this to be pretty interesting, we have had no hurricanes yet this year, and there are still 8 forecast to occur. 3 of those hurricanes would be major hurricanes, Category 3 or higher, with a total ACE score at the end of the year forecast at this point now of 140. And just remember, this is very similar. I just want to make this statement again, like coaches making changes during games. Variables come and go. The situation changes. Same thing with the atmosphere. There is uncertainty. There are variables. And I think it's good that tweaks are made and that we are updated at least every month. And then now we're in the bi-weekly forecasts as well from Colorado State University, which I remind you has been doing this for over 35 years. So they have a great track record and trying to learn, right? And keep us all up to date on what could be happening down the road. And I mean, 8 hurricanes, that's a lot to squeeze in between now and the end of November, for sure. So let's take a look at the GFS here. I want to back this up, kind of sneak preview there. This is the current setup, and we'll use this blue color here. There is Dexter, the vorticity signature associated with that. Weak vorticity signature here off the southeast coast. And then there's our energy sitting out in the deep tropics. Now, let's move this out to exactly 5 days, 120 hours, because this is, to me, really, really interesting. There's the leftovers of Dexter. This would be what might try to form that was over here today. And then this is the system that was lurking down here. And then this is what I am most interested in. Not because of where it might go or whatever. It's the mechanics of it. I see that little tail coming off, and that tells me if this verifies, this will be the first time this season that we have seen that evident on there. It's really trying to pull in that moisture, tapping into the intertropical convergence zone, and we can see that really clearly on the 120-hour forecast showing the 700, 300 millibar relative humidity. There it is down there, and then look what it does with that. It moves on out. This is day 6, finally day 7. And by that point in time, the GFS operational, I want to make that very clear. This is one model, one run, but since this is out over the deep tropics, to me this is a big test. If that piece of energy comes off Africa, and a lot of the models are jumping on this, and does form, then that really does lead credence to this notion, because this is only August 13th. We're not even quite to the August 20th time frame where we normally see a big ramping up of activity. I think this is a big test. And looking at that, let's back it up a little bit. That little tail that it develops as it comes off, despite all that dry air, I think this is a big clue right here that it's a low rider, and it's south of all that dust that I showed you, and the dry air. I almost fell into that trap myself. This is really going to be interesting to watch, because over that time frame, let's drop the blue out of there. Let's back this up. Come on. I tell you, I can't wait to get home. I'll be on my home computer. It's just more comfortable. But look, it comes off, and again, it's really fascinating. You can see it turning, and then it develops that tail. I'm going to be watching this closely, so hopefully do an update tomorrow. Friday, I'm flying home, so no update then. But let's see how this progresses. I think this is a big test of how the tropics, the health of the tropics, are going to be doing going forward. All right, moving on along. Southwest, hot as all get out. I'm up here in Flagstaff, going to be heading south into the pink zone or whatever that is. Extreme heat warnings. Flooding back in my home state. Been so darn wet. This is all from the nasty wildfire smoke coming out of Canada, but still very, very hot west of the Mississippi, and darn hot down where I am. And it's been that way for a while, and we've had wildfires, and that brings me to these next few videos. But first, it's been pretty bad out here, and historically I saw this post from Weather Chit Chat, showed up in my algorithm on the Twitter there. So the Dragon Bravo fire, this was from yesterday. At the time, it was 126,000 acres, making it the 7th largest wildfire. The largest ever was the Wallow fire at over 500,000 acres back in 2011. But there's been lots of wildfires here in the Arizona region, the state here. And I came out, like I said, for the monsoon. Very fascinated by how moisture interacts with the desert Southwest. But dryness, fire weather is a thing. We certainly learned that very painfully at the beginning of this year in Southern California. We have all these fires going on out here now, including the Dragon Bravo, but there was also a fire recently that just got put out, extinguished, over 95% anyway, and that was the White Sage fire. So all of that being said, I want to show you some really neat video. I try to show you the weather in different ways. This is the White Sage fire I swear to goodness, this little telestrator tool. Come on. Thank you. This is the white sage fire leftovers up in the Kaibab National Forest. And this is a 360-degree view of it. And not only, I mean, it's a stationary camera, but, you know, you can see the wind blowing. But look at this. This is just from the last few weeks. Fire came up through here. They've put, you know, 95% of it contained, so forth, maybe even higher than that now. But just a really neat way to see sort of this post-apocalyptic event up here and how the lack of the monsoon moisture is really a problem. You know, this is devastating to the forest. I know a lot of it's natural from lightning strikes, but nevertheless, this is terrible. And they had a big one up here in 2020. I drove, that's a Highway 89A right there. I drove through there in 2020 with a couple of my kids from the big Kaibab forest fire up there that year, and saw a big ash devil. Anyway, fascinating stuff. This is the Dragon Bravo fire, though. This is absolutely amazing. So this is the Vermilion Cliffs sitting over here. This is 89A, and again, let's put this into motion and the power of 360 video. Look at that. That's the Dragon Bravo. It's actually huge. There's a plume and a column here, and then there's another one over here, and then the north rim of the Grand Canyon will be way over there. Terrible. It really is, and it screws up the air quality. I mean, look up at the sun. The beauty of the 360 cam. Just crazy how it looks. And it makes the ground look all funky, sort of a bronzish copper color, and then the smoke pours across. Just a really awful part of the environment out here that I realize, like I said, a lot of it's the natural occurrence. You get lightning strikes and these wildfires, and I'm actually pretty fascinated with this, and I probably will study it more going forward. Some of the people that are on our Patreon know a lot about this. One of them was a wildland firefighter himself. I just thought I'd show it to you, and it's in freaking 4K on my slow hotel Wi-Fi, so it's not loading the best that it could. But yeah, I just wanted to show you this to round out today's video, that the weather is always challenging, the weather is always interesting, and as we await to see what happens with the rest of the hurricane season, I just wanted to share that with you. All right? So we'll keep an eye on things again. To sum it up, not too worried at all about what's happening out there now. It is, again, in 5 days. That's going to be an interesting, should have like an hourglass. Flip that sucker over and see what might be coming off the coast of Africa in about 5 days. We'll keep an eye on it. And again, I'll have a video, I think tomorrow. Shouldn't be too hard. I'll be in Phoenix. And then Friday, it's time to fly home. And over the weekend, I'll be back with you, of course, then as well. So, have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in and giving me a part of your day. I am Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.